Welcome back, everybody. It's Latin's Fight Picks. Today we will recap the fights that happened last Saturday on June 8th. Cannonier versus Imavov. Every time I see Cannonier's name, I want to say it in French, Cannonier, but it's the Americanized version of Cannonier. Cannonier. All right, we'll go over what went right, what went wrong. It wasn't a good card. It was a bad card for me. I think it was a bad card for almost everybody. Just looking online, I think everybody got hammered on this card. But we'll go over why and how. And so let's start off with the most obvious. Katona, he was expected to win. He was minus 725. He was not bettable. He could have had a degenerate parlay and put him in it. It could have increased the money a little bit, not a huge. Individually, it's just not worth it. And he dominated the fight. And the one that was on the feet, it was pretty entertaining. And the guy he was fighting was he's really tall for the division. He dropped down in weight a lot. I don't know if this is his weight class, but he just got beat handily by Katona, and I don't think Katona is a really high level guy. So maybe if he tries weight class, maybe 10 pounds heavier. But nevertheless, it was somewhat entertaining in the third round when they were standing, and the few times they were standing. But otherwise, it was just a one-sided event. Moving on, Ferreira, KO. Well, we expected Ferreira to be throwing big bombs, and I gotta hand it to Stoltzfus. This guy is tough. He's just like a brick. He could take a shot, and honestly, he was landing his fair share of shots, and Ferreira was taking them too. Ferreira could take a shot as well, and I think he even got Ferreira to the ground, put him in a compromising situation. Ferreira got out of it. I don't mind watching the Stoltzfus fights, but the guy is a little slow, and it's really weird because he's awkward because his punches do land. But I think he's slow, and his movement as far as defense is terrible. And of course, eventually Ferreira caught him with some big power shots. And to his credit, the guy was, not completely knocked out, but he took some punishment. But expected high degree of confidence, Ferreira won. Practice, high degree of confidence, KO. And we watch, Radke is a good fighter. I think there's going to be a lot of fights that he's going to be able to win, but it's going to be in the bottom half of the division. And I think Practice is not in the bottom half of the division. Very accurate strikes, and Radke was game, and he's moving forward. And as long as he was moving forward, he was doing okay. But eventually, he started moving back, and Practice was, picking him apart. First round KO, Practice. Dos Santos split. This was a robbery. Sometimes you just want to bet the narrative, and you got the Indian fighter coming here, and they try to set her up as much as they could. They put Dos Santos, who's the lowest level, opponent that they could find, because they want her to win. Because there's 1.6 billion people in India. I mean, that's a market that's totally untapped. And I get the narrative, and I should have bet the narrative. But here's the thing: if you're gonna give the fight, I don't think Pooja won the fight. I thought she lost the fight. I thought the cleaner strikes, the more powerful strikes, even though the strikes seemed pretty even, the most of the punching and the powerful strikes are coming to Santos. You got Pooja, who was just basically doing the side kick, and she basically won it with the side kick. But here's the thing. It's a shame that Pooja can win the fight with just a side kick, even though she did land a few other shots, but it was mostly the side kick that was effective. But it's also a shame that Dos Santos would let someone beat her with just a side kick. So there you go. Dos Santos should have just taken it upon herself to figure out how to get it close in distance, and to kind of rush in. Whenever she rushed in and threw punches, she was very effective. And Dos Santos, for some reason, couldn't take her to the ground. I guess Pooja had been working on her takedown defense, but it also shows how bad Dos Santos is in general. But and it didn't help. It was the first fight, and she was high on the parlay, so a little bitter about that. And of course, when Dos Santos is going to let that fight be that close, when it was that close, I'm there like, Dos Santos clearly won this fight, but she gave the judges an opportunity to do what they're supposed to do and give it to Puja, basically. So, not conspiracy theory. There's always got to be an angle. This is a sport that has a lot of money in it. So, didn't like it. Wish I would have listened to my conspiracy theory mind and put money on Puja. You know, she was a huge underdog. So, anyways, that was wrong. A split decision, and on top of that, you got to look at the judging. 30-27 for the Santos, 30-27 for Puja by another judge. It just was ridiculous. At that point, you know the fix is in. Moving on, Baeza. Oh man, this guy sucks. And this is the biggest regret I have is this bet right here. And I'll tell you why. I bet on Soriano right as soon as I saw the fight. I bet on Soriano. I put a bet in on Soriano. And I kind of talked myself out of the bet, and I took the bet out, and then I picked Baeza. And the theory was this. The UFC loves Soriano. They do. He's big in Hawaii. If they do a Hawaii show, it's going to be big. The Hawaiian community, and he's a friend of Holloway's. And so they're looking for somebody for him to beat. So they get Baeza with a 2-year layoff, probably not coming back to the UFC. That was my theory. I said, you know what, Soriano's going to win this by hook or by crook. It was only after I found out he was dropping down to welterweight that I said, well, you know what, maybe it's not the narrative. Maybe that's just a fight that was available because Baeza wants to come back. So I talked myself out of it. That's why it hurt so much how badly Soriano beat Baeza. And it wasn't striking at all. It was just literally ground game. And Baeza is the one who started the ground game. And then he lost it. And then at that point, Soriano realized, I'm just going to wrestle this guy because I'm, beating him so badly on the ground. And it was just him on top, pounding him. Granted, he did have one leg lock, a knee bar, and he tried to make it work. And I was hoping it would work. But yeah, Soriano got out of it. Continued the pounding for the rest of the rounds. It was dominant victory, and Baeza definitely probably was brought back just to lose to Soriano. So there you go. The narrative worked again. I should have stuck with it. That was a loss. Lee, split decision loss. We knew it was going to be a close fight. I just kind of went with the girl that kind of won the last fight. And there was just a couple moments in those fights, kind of at the end of the fight, and it would have gone to Lee if in the last 10 seconds, what's her name, De La Rosa didn't headlock or kind of flip Lee down on the ground, and I think that's just what won it for her. It was so close. The fight was close. We expected it to be close, and it was just that one move right in the third round that probably swung the extra judge on her side. But it's hard to pick that fight. I mean, that fight was going to go either way. It was going to be a split decision type fight either way. I just kind of went with Lee just because I thought, you know what, she's still going to, they're the same fighters. And virtually, if it wasn't for that judo throw takedown at the end of the last 10 seconds in the third round, Lee would have won the split decision. I'm positive of that. Because at that point, I still think Lee was kind of ahead on the strikes. Anyways, moving on. Marcos, mid-level confidence, and I just needed to see how fast Castaneda would be against Marcos. And right away, when we saw the speed difference with Marcos, I knew this was done. So I wasn't too worried about the takedowns. Marcos does have good takedown defense. And he just clearly dominated the fight 3 rounds. Marquez, I think it was an early stoppage. And these guys were going to go throw down and someone's going to get KO'd. And the worst part was that he got caught with an uppercut and he went down and he was clearly moving. He's covering up and he was going for the legs. And you don't want anyone to get hurt. But this is a Marquez fight. This is how he wins, is he battles through these adversities where he's getting pounded and he comes back. And he wasn't KO'd. He got knocked down and he immediately started covering up and started going for his legs. And granted, there was a lot of shots coming from Reese. I don't know if they were super hard shots, but they were a high volume. But he was still moving and trying to get a position where he would avoid these shots. And in a Marquez fight, this is normal. They let him take way more punishment against Mark Barrio when he fought him. They took way. As a matter of fact, I thought they should have stopped that fight a little earlier, and they let it continue because they know how tough Marquez is. I thought he took way too many shots in that fight because basically Barrio was chasing him around the ring, pounding him against one part of the fence and another part of the fence and all that. So this fight was, I think they should have given him a few more seconds, because if he had gone deep enough to grab a leg, he could have just, he could have had a chance to recover. That was a slightly early stoppage, not hugely early, but early enough, especially knowing the fighter and having a flash knockdown in the first 20 seconds like that. Those happen quite often where you recover from. Moving on. Cannonier, too old. And here's the thing is, you saw it, how good Cannonier was in the first round. Dominated the first round. He clearly won it. Second round, for the most of the second round, the first 2 to 3 minutes, Cannonier was winning. And then all of a sudden you started to see him fade. I still thought he won the second round, but you could see him fading at the end of the second round. And he just could not keep, he had the ability, he just could not keep that same pace and pressure he did in the first round. Because if he did, he would have won the fight. And then you see things shifting in the third. He came out pretty good at the beginning of the third, and he just got, fell further and further behind. And you could tell he looked worn out. And then fourth, so that round could have probably gone to Imavov. It was pretty close, but he probably took it. I think going into the fourth, Cannonier was, he was close. It was close. I thought he was slightly winning. I thought he was 2-1 at that point. I think the judges had kind of split at that point. And then in the fourth round, he started okay, and then he started to fade again. And I think he just can't keep up the same level of intensity, and that's also due to age. So the ability, and having said all that, I thought he was up 2-1, and I thought the fight was definitely stopped early. We've seen Cannonier hurt many times and recover, and he wasn't hurt. He wasn't knocked down. He was throwing back. He was blocking shots, covering up. He was throwing back, and just before they stopped the fight, he actually threw a right hand and connected with Imavov, and then he covered up and started fading back, and he was just trying to recover and recover from the onslaught. At some point, probably clinch him or grab him. But I can't believe the ref actually jumped in. It was like way early. The stoppage was way early. It was nowhere close to being stopped, especially because you've seen this guy fight for years, and he gets rocked like that quite often, actually. Like in most fights, he gets clocked and he comes back and he falls back and he covers up and he waves the guy on, and he recovers pretty quickly. Imavov was just chasing him around, and he was just moving around not to get hit, not because he was, how can I put it? He was hurt, but he was doing the smart thing and not standing there. He was throwing a punch and moving around, and maybe he didn't like the fact that he was kind of running away, not running away like running with his back to him, but running away as in backing up, covering up. And I don't know if it just looked bad for the ref, but that's what he's supposed to do until he recovers. So it was an early stoppage. I'm not saying that Imavov wouldn't have won anyway, because it looked like Cannonier was fading, but still early stoppage, and who knows, it could have been going 2-2 into the fifth round. So anything could happen, right? Cannonier could turn around and land on him. So not a bad pick, but it is what it is. Moises, oh man, he looked absolutely terrible. No excuses. I thought he looked pretty good in the last fight. I thought maybe he turned it around with a new training camp. But the guy gets so disheartened when he loses. When he's losing, you could just see he's so dejected. And Klein, to his credit, was so strong, especially in the grappling positions. He could defend all of it. And when he did get taken down that one time, he got back up. It was easy. Klein made it look easy. So this guy absolutely shouldn't be in the top level. He's going to keep fighting, but he's going to have to fight the lower level guys, right? He doesn't have the ability. Stamen, I thought he could maybe get the takedowns, and granted, the narrative was working against me where they want Lapalus to win, and Stamen, he's a wrestler who doesn't really push his wrestling that much, and you know what, he seems like, I don't know, I thought he was a better wrestler, let's put it that way, and he wasn't, and he just couldn't take Lapalus down, and when Logren took him down, I thought, this guy who's been in the UFC way longer and he was an accredited wrestler, he should be able to do it. But he wasn't. And every time he tried to take him down, Lapalus defended it. And that was it. And he couldn't take him down. I think he might have taken him down one time and he got back up. So disappointed in that part of it. But as far as the striking, it was competitive. Lapalus was probably edging slightly the striking. Stamen was still in it. He just needed to hit a few takedowns, and he probably could have stolen this fight with a few takedowns, but he couldn't do it. Went for the dog shot, didn't work. Gomes, split decision. The reason why I got a question mark is, how do they even look at that fight like a split decision? Gomes clearly won that fight. Clearly, like I thought she won all the rounds. There was not one round that Mara won. But like I said, Mora's huge for the division. She cuts weight like crazy. And I was even saying, like, how is she even going to make this weight? And sure enough, she didn't even make the weight anyway. But Gomes, I don't underestimate Gomes anymore. She might be small, but she is a handful. Good striker. Look how good she did on the ground against Mora. Getting back up, reversing positions. It was amazing. This is one girl that came into the UFC and has totally surprised me at how well she's done. Split decision. It should not have been a split decision. It was clear. She dominated that fight against Mora. Good underdog hit. Reyes, another good underdog hit. KO. I had it in a low confidence just because I think everybody else didn't believe that he can do it. But as the fight was building up, I just had more and more confidence that Reyes is going to knock Jacoby out. And to Jacoby's credit, I actually thought he looked way better than I thought he would. He did take a few earlier shots and he kind of walked through them. And I thought, well, maybe I'm making a mistake with this guy, because he kind of walked through him. And I was saying that I think his chin is disappearing. And eventually he started throwing some big bombs, and which is totally in Reyes' wheelhouse. And Reyes caught him with a left. And sure enough, he ended up KOing him. His chin is, I believe that Jacoby's chin is slipping. Maybe it wasn't slipping as hard as I thought, but nevertheless, the KO happened. I was expecting the KO to happen. And it was a great bet, that one. There's a few good bets. Now this one. This is my 50-50. So technically, I'm picking both, even though I said, okay, we'll just put Turkios as on the top part. So just so you know, when I do my counts, I'm going to count this as not a loss. So anyways, Turcios, he won the first round. This played out exactly the opposite of how I thought it would play out. Turcios came out like on fire, as opposed to Rosas, who comes out like on fire. And he won the first round. And then you could see Rosas still had a lot left, and you could see Turcios slightly slowing down. And then Rosas came out on fire in the second round. And Turcios was just one level lower on that power bar, even though he wasn't gassed. But you could just tell how aggressive he went out in the first round. He did not do that in the second round. And that was enough for Rosas to kind of take over the fight. So I expected Rosas to really take the first round and Turcios to come on in the second and third. And it was the opposite. Turcios just, blew his wad kind of thing in the first round. And he had one level less in power, and Rosas kept up the same pace. And he ended up getting the back. It was hard for him getting to back. And Turcios, was trying to be creative and trying to get out of that body triangle. And, we kind of expected that he's going to leave his neck out here and there, because he does do that to get out of these positions. And he did that, and he was rolling around, and Rosas got under the chin. So this is kind of played out similar to what I thought it would, but I knew it was going to be close. Not a loss. So gotta pick both of them. Okay, there's a method behind this. So anyways, so basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What? Am I counting wrong? Wrong. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 wrong. Yes. So 7 wrong. Technically not wrong here. So I'm 50%. Let's keep me at 50%. It's terrible. Trust me. I didn't like these fights at all. It was terrible. Sorry guys. But like I said, I was going online and I think everybody got about the same, like half wrong. Like it was just ridiculous. I mean, it just things could turn around so quickly. You got a split decision here, and right off the bat things change, you know. You got early stoppage here, you know. Before you know it, things can completely change. But that's the fight game. Who knows why? Let's try to do better next time. So, thank you very much for joining me. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know how you did in these fights. Let me know if you agree with what I'm saying, if you disagree, what you thought about the fights, and etc. Love to have the conversation. Hit like if you liked the sorry, I'm blanking out. If you like the material, if you like the podcast, if you like the show, hit subscribe next time. We'll get notified when I put up my next video. I'm working on the fight card starting today for this Saturday. I'm going to try to get it out on Thursday and not on Friday evening. I do have an extra couple days this week, so I should be able to do that. Again, it's in the Apex and it's a rather obscure card, so there'll be a lot of research on some new fighters. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll see what happens. And like I said, these kind of fights, like these ones and the one coming up, you know, you'll get these odds that are way off, and if you can nail it, those are the large number of underdogs that you can hit. Is these kind of cards, because they're not the top echelon fighters, they're not as well known, and it's easier for the bookies to make mistakes on a line and stuff. And lots of times these fights are closer than they are presumed to be on with the line and stuff like that. Otherwise, thanks for joining me. Have a great week, and we will see you Thursday for the next fight prediction video for the Saturday coming up. I'm not even sure who's on there, but yeah, we'll do it anyway. Have a great week.